let's get into it. I went a different route. You went, what would I tweak in the show?
Right.
So I basically decided, fuck the show. I would just cancel everything, destroy just burn it to the ground, fire everybody except Robert Englund, and then bring me in and then give me unlimited money, and then I will do a new show.
Right. Something completely different.
Right.
Right.
So,
I went with I still have to work within the confines of what they're giving me. What can I change about what I have that I can hopefully make?
I think it says a lot about our different personalities.
Right.
That
I'm a little bit more pragmatic and practical.
You just assume in Mark's mind, Mark was like, I have to work with what I'm given. Justin's mind was, I am God, and I'm just going to move all the tiles around and do whatever. But I'm going to save mine to the end of this episode then. Yep. Because mine is just I'm going to give you a pitch of, this is Justin Ashley's Freddy's Nightmares, but it's not even called that. I even gave it a different new title. Whole thing. I started from scratch. This is my version. I'm going to pitch you my Nightmare on Elm Street show, my ideal one. You're going to have to wait 5 hours from now to hear what the fuck it is, or just skip to that time code. But Mark, how would you, what do you want to change?
All right. So the very first thing that I pointed out, and I've got sort of, like I said, 3 points that there's a number of things that you could change, but there are 3 sort of big bucket points that I wanted to make. The first one is that season 1 relies very heavily on the dreaming, the nightmares, the sort of subconscious experience as being a part of the mechanic that moves the plot along, right? So I can imagine that the producers, when they're getting writers, they're like, okay, you can write whatever story you want, but it has to involve this, right? There has to be dreams involved. There has to be some kind of subconscious experience, and that has to be a part of what moves the plot of the story along, right? Makes perfect sense, right? It's Nightmare on Elm Street. We all get it, right? Characters, when they dream, things happen to them. But it is a creative restriction, right? Even the episodes in season 1 that used it well, you could still tell that they're like, okay, well, I got to make sure I keep that in the back of my mind when I'm creating this, that it has to involve some kind of a dream. So the first thing that I would change for season 2, if I ran the zoo, was I would remove that restriction. Don't make every episode tied to dreams. Like, don't make it that every episode has to have some kind of dream element.
Like season 1, it's like every one of those episodes, half the runtime of the episode is just dream sequences, which are never anything, except for when they are. It's super inconsistent, but most of the time it's just, you're just seeing the person's inner fears and doubts play out, and that's every episode. Actually, I have that down as a major criticism. Is one of the major issues with the dream sequences is they're never actually happening. Right. So every time, like, it goes against Elm Street lore. Mm-hmm. So in Elm Street lore, you dream, Freddy attacks you, those things then manifest physically. And there's plot holes with that, and they're a little inconsistent in these movies, but generally that's the rule, right? But in Freddy's Nightmare, it's like the second anything weird starts to happen, you go, well, this is a dream.
This is obviously just a dream.
And it's going to amount to nothing. And the character's just going to wake up.
Season 1 had some episodes where the dreams mattered, right? Season 2, we'll talk about this in a moment, does not. All right. Okay. So that was point 1, right? Point 2, right? The requirement that every B story involve a negligible character from the A story, right? So we talked about this in season 1. Every episode has an A story and a B story. They each take up half of the episode. The stories don't really have much in common with each other, except that they always have one character that ties from the A story to the B story. But that character usually has such a thin connection between the two stories that it almost doesn't really make sense to do it. And I would, so that would be the second thing that I would do.
Because you think that's going to fix.
Right. Well,
it's like, well, now they don't have to tie it to somebody. So they're left with creative freedom. Creative freedom.
That's the name of our new rock band.
Creative freedom. They're given creative freedom to just do whatever.
Right.
So what you're saying is, like, why not just have an A plot and a B plot that's just two different stories?
Right. Either that, or make that connection more substantial and do something with it.
So that it's A and B plot, but it's one singular.
Yeah. Instead, what they did in season 1 was, here's a limitation that we're applying to you and your writing.
An arbitrary one.
Right. But it's not going to help you with the plot of the second story, of the B story, right? It's just going to be like a boat anchor that you got hung around your neck the whole time when you're writing that B story, right? So either do something more with it or cut it out at all.
And what Mark's referring to is like in Freddy's Nightmares, they use this A and B plot format where the A plot will establish characters and they do whatever. And then the B plot generally, and it was like a running joke we had, it was like, which of these side people are now going to lead the second episodes? And usually it was like, if it was a couple in the first episode, usually like the guy would be the main guy, and then the girlfriend was the B plot.
Maybe, if you were lucky.
Dealing with the consequences. But sometimes it was such a stretch where it was like, oh, somebody went to a hospital and then somebody else was at that hospital and now we're following that other person.
Some other patient that maybe said 2 words in the background.
Well, what was the one episode in like season 1 where it was like Mother's Day? The guy was moving into a new house and he meets the hot chick, right? But then the radio person, we followed the radio
It was
woman?
her mom.
Yeah.
That
she's now the main character.
Right.
It's like, it was just this weird. They have a weird way of doing it where the A and B plots connect in some way.
Right.
But very rarely is the A plot like the whole episode.
Right.
Like I find usually they wrap up whoever you're following the A plot, they wrap that guy up or that person. And then now the B plot is just some other completely different character. So they feel so disjointed. But I see what you're saying where it's like they're still kind of linked. So it's awkward.
You still have to include it because we told you to.
It's messy,
but
it makes it messy.
Right, yeah. It almost like forces you to have to like include some character in your story that you wouldn't put in there otherwise.
Right.
Okay, so that's point 2. Point 3, most of the episodes in season 1 involve teenagers in Springwood High School.
Oh, no.
All right?
I know where you're going with this. This is one of my criticisms.
I get it. Again, just like with point 1 with the dreams, right? Nightmare on Elm Street, we've got a mythology here that we're trying to mimic from the movies and carry through. Right? Fair enough. Right? The problem is that works for, 7, 8, 9 movies, but when you're trying to stretch this out to 44 episodes of a TV show, it is another creative limitation that the writers have, right? So my recommendation for that would be simply move away from that. Don't have so many, or don't rely on so many of the episodes being tied to teenagers and high school, right? Now, okay, so those are my 3 points.
Yeah.
Right?
So Mark, I'm gonna branch off what you just said there, which is, hey, we don't always have to follow kids.
Right.
And season 2 really took that literally. It's almost like they heard you somehow through the ether. And they made that change.
Yeah.
Would you like to know the ratio of episodes that follow kids versus follow adults?
Yes. Do you have that number?
I do have that number. I'm glad you asked, Mark. So one of the biggest problems I have with season 2, because now obviously we've both watched season 2. One of my big problems with season 2 is they've switched gears and most of the episodes now follow adults.
Right.
Adults are the protagonists in like 90% of these fucking episodes. So out of the total 22 episodes, we only have 6 episodes that follow kids.
Right.
And I'm actually being generous on a few of those because a few of them, the kids are in the episode, but they're not really the central protagonist.
Yep.
So we've got Dream Come True, Memory Overload, Bloodlines, Do You Know Where Your Kids Are, Dreams That Kill, and A Family Affair. Right. That's it. The rest of them just follow adults.
So it's great that you bring that up because the final point I want to make to sort of wrap up what I'm sort of talking about with these 3 points is that if you had told me, if you had watched season 2 before I did, and I had told you those 3 points that I would do to sort of fix the show, if you had come to me and told me, hey, Mark, they actually do fix those points or they address those concerns, I would be thinking, oh, wow, season 2 is going to be an amazing show because they took some of the opportunities that they had from the first season and they capitalized on them, right? Season 2 does not focus heavily on dreams and nightmares.
Nope.
But every single episode does. They just don't do anything with it now. They're all useless dreams, which wastes time.
Right. They're just the dreams exist to pad out the runtime.
It's even worse.
Well, actually, I would say what they've now done with the dream sequences is it's less of the runtime. So the dreams are smaller, But that actually makes them more pointless in a sense.
Right.
So it's like every episode, the character's going to have a dream right around halfway through the A plot and right around halfway through the B plot. And neither of those dreams are going to be anything of consequence. It's just going to be a wasted 3 minutes.
This show, season 2, managed to address the concerns that I had and somehow came out with a worse season than season 1.
Mary Beth.
Johnny, where are you?
In here.
Oh my God. No!
I'm sorry, Mary Beth.
I knew you always loved her more than you loved me.
No, it wasn't my idea, I swear. I wound up inside of you purely by chance.
Oh, sure.
I don't know how they did.
I am so glad to hear you say that because I wasn't sure because we haven't talked about this. Season 1 sucks.
Yeah.
Season 2 is boring.
It is,
and that's the worst.
Right.
That's the worst thing I can say about it.
When
it's
Justin
just
was saying,
boring.
It took Mark a long time to get through this. The first season took me a while just because it was difficult to find the time. I had more time to watch this season and I could not get through it. It was an absolute bag drive to try to drag myself through these episodes. So, yeah.
And touching back on the dreams again, one thing I will give season 2 credit for, season 1, it was so often, it's like, are they asleep? Are they awake? Is this a dream? Is this not? And a lot of the episodes, I didn't get the answer. I don't know, because I don't know that the writers knew. Season 2 very much is like, you see the person fall asleep, you see the person wake up. They're a lot better at actually showing you when someone's asleep. And so like, that's good, but the dreams are always inconsequential.
Right.
Because it's just a dream.
They present a dramatic moment, and then you realize, oh, well, that didn't happen.
Right.
So then what did happen? Nothing.
So it just, you're right. Nothing happens.
Happened. Yeah.
And let's talk about Freddy for a second.
Yeah.
Freddy in season 1 was very rarely was he the antagonist in the episode, but there's a couple. There's a couple where he's actually the driving force, like Safe Sex is an example where like he's preying on the goth chick, and I can't think of another one off the top of my head. Bail me out here. What's another one where Freddy was like the central? The Twin Sisters episode,
which is the one we both liked,
the best episode.
What Sisters Keeper.
Sisters Keeper. Yep. Thank you, Mark. This is why he's the co-host here. But in season 2, there is like 2 episodes where he's the main antagonist. Am I nuts, or is Freddy in the show even less? Did you notice this?
Yeah, I did. Yep.
Like, he is barely in the show now, where it was like, in the first season, they very much used him as like a skit guy, as like, he's in the intro, then often he was at like the half point of the A plot, and then he'd be in the middle, and then he'd be at the halfway of the B plot, and then he'd be at the end.
Right.
Now it's like, you get him at the beginning, and it's like 30, 40 seconds. You get him in the middle, same thing, and you get him at the end, that's it.
Yep.
Remember when he would cleverly show up in the middle of an episode and like...
It was goofy, but it was fun at the same time.
It was charming. Right. It was fun.
Yeah.
That's the word.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
It didn't take it... Like, Freddy would show up and he'd be in the microwave, and then the microwave would like blow him up.
Or he's a nightlight.
Right.
Or he's a cop issuing tickets.
Like,
or he's playing a rock.
He would pop up randomly in the episode. Even if he wasn't directly influencing it, he was just constantly like breaking the fourth wall, and there's none of that.
At first,
they sanitized it.
The first couple of episodes that I watched, I thought that maybe they were trying to make the show more serious by taking out some of that, goofy, ridiculous stuff. And then I realized that no, I think they just had their budget cut so badly that they couldn't afford it. Or Robert Englund was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't know, something about it. But they didn't remove it for a creative choice. I think they just removed it because nobody cared anymore.
Well, speaking of like what you just said about like they want to take it more seriously, I think they wanted to take it more seriously. Yeah. So one of my biggest criticisms with season 2, and I mean, I know guys, we're really hyping up season 2 here. It's gonna be an interesting discussion, but like season 2, we haven't even gotten to it. People are just like, why are we watching this then? No. Why are you even talking about it? Because it needs to be on the record. It's on the account. Okay?
We talked before. We have more to say about the show itself than the episodes themselves.
Yeah. So season 2, one of my biggest, this is what I think kills season 2 for me. They sucked the fun out of it.
Yep. Yeah.
It's just not fun anymore. They took season 1, it's not good, but it's also kind of good when it's so bad.
Yeah. You could see where some of the creative teams were trying to do something good. They just maybe didn't have the money or the resources to do it. But you're like, I see what you're trying to go for there.
Right. But sometimes, like, a lot of my favorite episodes in season 1 were ones where they failed so hard, it became a different art form. You know, where it was like the acting would be so bad and the plot was so goofy at this point, you're just laughing because it's so stupid.
You and I would have watched season 1 together and had a great time.
We would have had a lot better time.
If we watched season 2 together, we'd be just sitting on the couch just being like, wow, this is...
We have nothing to comment on.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they just sanitized the show. Yep. So it seems like what they did was like, They took all of the zany plots from season 1 where it would be like Lori Petty finds this amulet and it manifests her dreams and like Killer whatever that episode was called.
Killer Edge? No, it wasn't Killer Edge. That's what we thought it should have been called.
I thought it should have been called Killer Instinct.
No.
It wasn't Killer Instinct. No. Killer Shrimp. So in that episode, she finds like this amulet and so like They did goofy things like that were like zany things.
Guy's got a pizza place and turns his uncle into
and his uncle is like
ingredients
is turning people into the pizza sauce in Love Stinks. Yep. Like these are fun, goofy things. Let me read off some of the plots from season 2. Some of the dramatic plots, like a man has an affair and worries his mistress will tell his wife about it. That's a plot. A pervert psychiatrist uses his hypnosis to assault his female patients and tries to cover it up. An artist fakes his own death to increase the value of his work. These are like that. This is it. It's just like it's like they went serious with it. Like, I mean, nothing feels.
In moving away from the teenage high school plots, they almost aged it too far. And one of the things that I noted is in getting away from the teenage plots, they had to have some kind of racy element. Every episode has what I call the sexy sax. Like they were trying to be like a Skinamax softcore porn, but they can't because like they're all still wearing their clothes.
That
every episode
has that fucking sexy music.
You know, I'm like, oh jeez.
We're gonna get to it. There's one episode that is the most egregious. Right. It is on my list.
I want Justin to insert a collage of these right here.
I don't know that I'll be doing that. Don't expect it to come out.
Well, that's about to change.
The miracles of modern medicine.
I was hoping you'd say that.
You'll get to hear some of it, but I don't know if I'm going to do. You know, that would be every episode. Yeah, I couldn't even do that. Yeah, a what, like several hour collage.
That's right.
Yeah, right. Yep. Of all of the moments.
Just the soft focus.
Yeah, you're so right about that. Yep. The soundtrack in season 2 just sucks shit. Right. It's just constantly they're using the same audio cues over and over again. The same. Yeah. Season 2 it's just dry and boring. And that's the worst fucking thing you can say about a movie or a TV show is that it bored you.
Yeah.
Like if it's bad, you almost have like, if it's so bad, it becomes good. Right. And if it's good, it's great. But when it's just boring, you just got nothing to talk about.
Yeah.
And that's what I feel this is. It's like, it's just so like there's a few glimmers. I've got a few. There's some small glimmers.
We had to pick a top 5, so you're gonna get a top 5 from each of us, but there may be no episodes where we cross over.
So just to recap what we are doing, we are ranking. We're gonna do our top 5. We're gonna do this first. We're gonna do our top 5 favorite episodes of Freddy's Nightmare Season 2.
Yep.
And then we are going to do our Top 5 worst episodes of Freddy's Nightmares Season 2. Now, at any time, because we don't know each other's picks, my top pick could be one of Mark's worst picks. Yeah. And vice versa.
And we had this happen in season 1. My
multiple
favorite
times
was your least favorite.
Yes. Yeah. Do Dreams Bleed? Most people consider it to be the worst of the Elm Street franchise. In general, all media considered, except for Mark Skews.
Right. See,
who had the hot take that it's the best, apparently.
Justin says this, but if Do Dreams Bleed was in season 2, it would be his favorite episode.
Not a chance.
I still know.
I fucking hate it. Yeah, even by that ranking. No, I fucking hate it. No. What else do I have here? I'm trying to see if I have any other points another thing we got to bring up about season 2. You know what? Okay. It's like, this was an idiotic decision. I don't know what they're thinking here. So we talked about the A plot and the B plot of season 2, right? Or of Freddy's Nightmares. The way they structure episodes. There's always the A plot, there's always B plot. Season 2, they went, let's go one step further. You know where I'm going with this.
I do.
There's an A plot and a B plot. And then there's a C plot and a D plot, because almost every episode, has a sister episode that follows up from shit from another episode. Now, sometimes it's like the same setting, so it's not always following the same characters, but sometimes
it is.
It is, which is a huge problem, because exactly what you said, where it's like they gave themselves these limitations, but it's like that's one where they made it even worse.
Yeah. And again, that's the whole point of the 3 things that I pointed out, that, you have this plot structure, this structure that's limiting you. Either do away with it or incorporate it in. So I like the idea that the A and B stories in all of these episodes have a stronger connection to them. But the problem is they went too far with it, because now it's not just an A and B story for one episode. Now it's this episode and this episode are now tied together. And now you're getting to the point where the lengths of these episode 1 and episode 2 are now kind of as long as movies are. And now you're starting to compare them against, like, wow, you could have invested this time into a movie, and it's terrible, right? You didn't have quite enough for one full episode to have an A and B story together, but you definitely don't have enough for one episode, 2 episode to link them together.
I know.
Right? 88 minutes is a lot of time for no ideas.
They are stretching so hard on some of these.
Yeah.
But it's weird, because sometimes the A and B plots are completely different.
Right.
So they don't always do that. Yep. Freddy's Nightmares just sucks. That's the problem. Nothing is consistent, and it's just I think they did the right thing and just cut it off.
Yeah.
I don't know that you can fix this show. I don't know that you can retool this. Yeah. I appreciate that you came up with some points, and they listened to you, Mark, and it made it worse.
And they made it worse.
It didn't fix it. You went into NASA while those eggheads, you were in the 60s, while those eggheads were doing their calculations on the board, and you came in and you went, what if we did this, this, and this? And the rocket fucking blew up, dude.
Right.
You didn't help anything. Right. You didn't help them get into orbit.
They took the ideas, and then it failed miserably.
Right. The rocket blew up on the launch pad. It didn't even take off. Yeah.